I'm back with Fiona Damon, our landscape and garden designer, and we're here to talk about terraces and basically the outside seating area of your home. Fiona, thanks for coming back and joining us again.
Pleasure.
So tell me, where do we start when we're talking about terraces?
One of the first things you've got to consider is obviously the siting of it. It's no good having a terrace that you can't get to or that doesn't get any sun. So you really want to think about the orientation of your house and consider whether you can put a terrace on the sunny south side. You'd also want to line it up with the doors so that you can easily access it from living rooms and the kitchen as well, because you want to be able to bring all that lovely food out for your alfresco dining.
Oh, I can't wait. I can see the glass of wine now. So tell me, what are we looking at size-wise? How do we do the size of the terrace in proportion to the house?
When you're considering proportions, you need to look at the hard landscaping overall, not just the terrace, so you may be linking that in with paths and possibly secondary areas. But certainly a terrace, if you're going to seat 6 people comfortably, should be a minimum of 4 metres square. I know that sounds a lot, but it really isn't. When you've got a table, chairs, 6 people, you need to move around comfortably. 4 metres square is the minimum size.
And I know you mentioned earlier about taking the actual height of the house and sort of halving it on the floor.
That's right, yes. If you have plenty of land around your house, the classic proportions are to take half the height of the house and lay that down as your terrace. That's a generous sized terrace. If you have acres of land and budget is no problem at all, you can actually take the full height of the house and lay that down as the terrace on the ground, which would be a sumptuous size and can be broken up with planting and intermediary areas, but would be a very glamorous sized terrace.
Getting tempted. In terms of this particular client and this particular project, which is of course a Georgian house, we're trying to recreate that lovely Georgian classic feel. How do we keep the terrace in keeping?
The first thing to consider is the house again. A Georgian house is formal, it is symmetrical, so you don't want to come off that with loads of twiddly circles and curves. It is not going to work. You need to come off with geometric shapes. You add interest to those by interlocking rectangles, squares, and getting a really strong ground pattern. That will probably look quite hard on a plan, but then you consider the planting, and that's going to bring lots of softness to the overall design, and it will work beautifully with a Georgian house.
And finally, what are our options in terms of, stone, fabric? What can we look at?
A Georgian house really wants to have a flagstone terrace outside it. That's the traditional accompaniment to the house. Again, if budget is no problem, a Yorkstone terrace is beautiful, but it is very expensive. There are now lots of wonderful concrete products on the market which have moved such a long way from those grey and pink squares. Really good imitations. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. They're much more accessible, they're much more affordable.